Go ahead, Mayor.
All right, call the meeting to order. Jen, would you take roll, please?
Commissioner Corbin?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Waldner?
Here.
Commissioner Thill?
Here.
And Mayor Lindsay.
Here. And I'm going to call on David Jenks at the moment, since we are having a hearing, and in my absence, I cannot see who all's there in the audience. So, David, would you like to make a recommendation?
Well, I think it would be appropriate, based on the fact, Mayor, that you can't see the room, that the commission make a motion to appoint a chairperson to conduct the meeting. That chairperson can make motions and vote as normal. That person is simply the conductor, so to speak, of the meeting, in light of the fact that the mayor can't really see the room.
Okay, and I'm just fine with that. So, do we need that in the form of a motion
It
and a vote?
It should be in the form of a motion and a vote to appoint a chairperson for this meeting.
Okay, and I would ask one of the commissioners to make that motion.
I'd make a motion to elect Mike Waldner, since he's senior commissioner, to the mayor's position tonight only.
Second motion to make him chair.
Okay, do we have a second?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And I will let Mike Waldner take it from here.
Thank you, Mayor. Before we continue, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, just a friendly reminder, Board of Commissioner meetings are recorded, and including the video and audio of the audience, presenters table, and the commission table, just so everybody's aware of that. And of course, you can see these on the website. So with that, motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Motion is for and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Seeing no appearances or acknowledgments, anything anybody wants off the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All those in favor for the consent calendar as presented signify by aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And under old business, I think we are probably close enough to 5:35. Are we okay with that? That we move into the hearing on ordinance number 1601, amend Appendix B zoning, change zoning district from R60 to R20. And I'm sure there's some folks in the room that would like to speak to that. And when you do, we ask that you come up and just announce your name and for the video, and we'll let you go ahead and take at it.
You want to start with the
Do you-
people
do
making
you
the
wanna-
request?
Yeah, let's do that. Good point. Let's start with the folks that are making the request for the zoning change. If you would, go ahead and present your case. Not sure who all. We can bring up more chairs too if you like, or whatever you need. So. Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tate Hotbit.
I'm Dustin Henderson.
With Opal Properties.
Okay. I guess the biggest thing is that we're looking at doing, and we've talked. I think Dusty, you were here a month ago or so, and visited with us about this. And of course, I got a few questions, but I just want to hear maybe if you could go over your proposal again, just maybe briefly, just to brief the commission, bring us all back up to date on it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're just more or less here to listen. In the end, we want to have a discussion with everybody and decide on if what we are offering is better for everybody, and then kind of take it from there. We have a PowerPoint printed out and some slides over here. If you're okay with us walking through that, I think it would help everybody understand where we're coming from. And like I said, you want to jump in, and if anybody would like to jump in as we go through it and ask questions, like I said, that's what we're here to do, and listen. So
Did you have printouts for the commissioners or not?
I did
This
send
is the same one that.
I did send this to all the commissioners.
Okay. The one that you sent like a
Yes.
month ago or so? Okay. Go ahead.
Mr. Walter, yes, Chad Holmes here, Mayor. The presentation that you're talking about, I believe, is one that's in the agenda packet. And there was a series of other items in the agenda packet that the commission had available and was also available online. I won't go into that unless somebody wants to do that, but there's a series of pieces of information in there.
Is it in this agenda packet or the last?
It was in this agenda packet.
Oh yeah, here it is again too. Yep.
Yes. As in addition to that, at the first reading, again, I said I wasn't going to get into a lot of detail, but I'll just mention a few things. At that time, the commission asked for any public input in writing, and so you also will see in the agenda packet, in addition to the application and notices and so on, there's some written information from people who wanted to submit for this item.
And also, I'll just make a note that the planning commission proceedings are also listed there as well, so. Okay.
Commissioner Wallner, if I might speak.
Yes, you may.
One of the things in that I as mayor have a concern with, for it is we're just being asked for a zoning change. At this point in time, they don't have to present to us, what is there. And if we make a zoning change in that, they can change the plans and that are there. Under the current zoning, 40% of the property and that can be developed. Now, because that piece of property goes way back to the creek, and I'm not sure if Mr. Comus and that has the measurements of the depth and the width, but they can utilize 40% of that property, which means that if you take the entire square footage of that property, the front half, which is, or maybe it's not quite a half, that is not in the floodplain, even the floodplain square footage counts toward the 40%, which means that 60 to 80% in my estimate of the front portion of that property could be developed under the current zoning. Under the current zoning, they could put a 4-plex on either parcel, which means a total of an 8-plex. If the 4-plexes and that included 5 bedrooms or even 6 bedrooms, you could have 24 people living on each lot for a total of 48. Or if you went with 5 bedrooms and that, even with a small living room or kitchen, similar to what the Coyote Center, and I'm not sure I'm using the proper title, but Coyote Village is in Vermillion. So keeping in mind that the current ordinance allows them to use 40% of the property, the proposal would allow them not only to use up to 80% of the property, but also increases the height that the building and that would be able to go. So even though they're giving a presentation of what they would like to put, if we make a zoning change, that is subject to change and in the future for any future owner or future buyers. And part of the reason in that for me pointing some of this out is that we are in the historic district. And even though the house, one of the homes in that in question, was historic in nature before it was remodeled into its present status, we are still in the historic district. So just some information in that from my perspective.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I guess, he brings up a very good point, and we can go through this PowerPoint, and I'd rather go through it rather quickly and not deal so much on, well, this is what we're going to do, because quite honestly, we could approve this zoning and you're going to make promises, and then the very next day you could change it. So
Yeah, no.
just, you know, that's something that we're well aware of, and so I'm not interested so much in, you know, kind of so much on the building side of it,
Mhm.
so, but,
Well,
okay.
I guess more or less our thought was just to be upfront and honest right off the bat and let you know kind of what we have in mind.
Okay.
As far as the proposal goes. But
Thank
I'll
you.
run through this, and if anybody has any questions, feel free. I'll stop after all these bullet points on each slide and ask. So 705 and 709 North Egan Ave, current structures will continue to age and physically deteriorate, thus magnifying current issues while driving down surrounding property values. Currently, they're in unrepairable condition, documented to have zero historical significance by South Dakota Historical Society, not zoned or to code for multifamily use, parking, noise, and criminal issues currently at properties.
The documented zero historical value is of the actual structures. It's still within the historical district.
It's in the historical
Yep.
district. Yeah.
Just want to make sure we clarify that.
So there's some pictures of the current structures. And then the proposed project that we have in mind would be approximately $2.5 million proposed project. We would remove current structures, rezone to multifamily to build to code structures that share similar qualities with the historical district. Support Madison MDSU's momentum toward the future and need for faculty, graduate, and student housing. Reduce traffic and parking issues by providing housing and parking across the street from the campus versus faculty and students commuting. Substantial investment will greatly increase neighborhood property values. Professionally managed with 24-hour surveillance and a significant tax revenue increase for City of Madison. So here's one of our projects just down the street in Brookings, and this building is called the Lossett Main, and it increased surrounding property values. Similar type of deal. We knocked down a bunch of older structures and put up the new building. We increased city property tax revenue from $3,592 to $23,500. That's after the discretionary formula. Property value increased from $156,000 to $1.2 million. Currently, we have young professionals and student tenants of high character. We have no parking or criminal issues there. It's professionally managed with 24-hour surveillance, and we have a current 5-star rating on Airbnb.
This is a project currently that we're doing of another historic infill for the SDSU, the passive house. So this just shows how good a new structure can fit in with the historic structure. Very, very similar shape, not as much detail, it's more of a modern structure. It's not complete, but it just gives you an outline of how well that will fit in with the elevations and the architecture.
So that's a project that we're currently working with SDSU on, and like you see, similar challenges here that we faced, that we would face here in Madison. You know, fitting a new modern structure into a historical district, or with older houses, and you can see how there's similar quality as far as the architectural design go, and fits real nice in there.
And if you went back and looked at the process that we dealt with from Brookings, you would see that what we initially proposed was the same thing with just minor changes that they had suggested that we could do. And then the ones we agreed on, we complied with. But through the whole process, we told them exactly what we were going to build, and we built what we said we were going to. So.
And this, just a fun fact about this is a passive house. I don't know if anybody's aware of what a passive house is, but similar qualities that we're going to be using on this structure in Madison, but very energy efficient, very green build, so something that we're very conscious of.
Could that also be said of your location on Main Street in Brookings? On Main?
Yes, absolutely. We have tenants, in fact, I call every one of the tenants every single year and just talk to them about their feedback. And a lot of what they say is, I don't know, in fact, we've had people ask us if their heater is working or if their AC is working because it never runs. And they have, I mean, they each have their own unit and they barely are ever running because, I mean, everything that we've done all the way up until the insulation, the sheetrock that we put on the wall, it's to that next level. You know, just want to make it, you know, we don't want to have a brown box apartment building. You know, we want an efficient structure, something that people are going to be happy and living with, and it's not going to cost them a ton to heat or cool.
There's one thing too with the height. You guys say that the height, Madison allows you to go 80 feet or whatever the height is. In the historic district, as soon as we pull a permit, it triggers a review to the Historical Society. We cannot be more than 10% above the average height of the rooftops in a certain district. So, and they usually take that block that you're working on and you average out the height, and you gotta be within 10% of that. So we couldn't build.
Facility on Main Street buildings. Is that considered to be a historical district?
No,
Okay, I didn't think so, but but this one is.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is right on the edge of the central historic neighborhood in Drury.
I have a quick question. Have you, over the last month, maybe I just missed it, maybe I was out of town or something, but have you met with, like, all the citizens? We had talked about maybe throwing together a meeting at the library or something and getting everybody together.
I touched base with Chad, and it did sound like there was, you know, we were looking to see if there's anything more to address. It didn't sound like there was too much more feedback other than kind of what we were aware of, you know, from the first meeting. But if folks would like to meet, I mean, you know, we'll stay after tonight and answer any questions if they feel like they haven't, you know, been heard, or, you know, whatever, you know, they'd like to set up a meeting afterwards. We're open to, you know, doing whatever.
You don't own, or this property doesn't run all the way back to the creek. The mayor mentioned that. I believe the property line is somewhere halfway between the creek and the street, correct? Is
Correct.
this?
Yep, there's a couple maps that you all have, and there's some others in front of us. Right there. You can see.
288 feet.
Yep.
Right.
It doesn't run all the way to the creek, that's correct.
So behind them is a city property.
That's correct.
Is that about a half acre about?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Is that on this side of the creek?
Yeah, it's big.
Or does it?
part of
Does
like
the city's part include this side of the creek and the other side
Yeah.
of the creek? So we do work on this side.
Yeah.
Because one would have if you looked at that from a kid's perspective, I mean, perhaps those woods over the road when you're a kid, you would think that the creek side would be the property owners, you know, would belong to the property owners. And then you get out into this part of the pasture in that area, you think that more of that is the city. That's why we had responsibilities on this side, on the, so it'd be on the east side.
Yeah, we got,
Responsibilities there.
yeah. Your parking,
Yes, sir.
where would you put your parking at for 40 cars?
Yeah, and I know that's a big concern, and obviously it's a problem now. And by increasing the number of units, it could, you know, could potentially be an even bigger problem. So what we have in mind is putting the parking in the back and hiding it. You know, the structures will be out front towards Egan Ave, and then the parking lot will be behind the two structures. And there's just to you know, just so it doesn't look like there's a big parking lot, you know, right there, you know, off the street. It will be hidden back behind the structures.
I was thinking for your own estate management, for your tenants, as opposed to everybody, trying to find a place to park behind the building would be better anyway. The security you need. Have you been approached by any of the citizens who had concerns about this, to discuss options. You've been approached.
Yeah, Jay had been texting me back and forth, but he's the only one that I've been in contact with. But, and then it sounded like he was in contact with everybody else.
Okay.
So,
I want to go back to the parking just for a second. So you're telling me that with what you were planning, you can get 40 parking spots back there? 50?
yeah, close to 50.
And they can do that on
What would have to
floodplain?
happen would be, the specifics of the proposal would only be required to be provided once a conditional use or a variance would come forth, or a building permit. And when we review that building permit, we would look at the number of dwellings, we'd look at the parking ordinance and say, is there enough parking stalls per dwelling? And then at that point, if there's not, we'd let the applicant know that they would need to seek a variance or revise their plan or something like that. So there's been no requirement for them to submit all the fine details of it.
Right.
With 40 units, it's 2 per dwelling, they need to have a place for 80. I think with 40 was what, 30 to 40, so it's 60 to 80 parking spots under the current standard. So if they wouldn't be able to comply with that, they would have to come back before the Board of Adjustment for a variance at that time. I think if there was 40 or 50, like maybe you just said that in your conceptual plans,
Yeah.
then you can see that you'd only have enough for 20 or 25 units. So.
Can you put that other picture back up there, the one that you were thinking about? And so that one right there you're looking at.
This one here?
Yeah, you would need 80 parking spots for that.
Well, see, and the rule too doesn't state you need more parking spots for a 2-bedroom or an efficiency, and there's no way that 2 people are going to stay in that efficiency. They're way too small.
Well, yeah, that's our ordinance, and we would
Right.
defer over here, so
Yep.
we would go by our ordinance.
So, I mean, our idea is that you would drive down the street and you would see the same structure shape as you see in the historical district. And you can see there that top picture is kind of a modern Scandinavian farmhouse, kind of what you would call it. And it would share, similar architectural structure as the historical district does.
Okay, I have a question for Chad. Floodplain. How can we let them build in a floodplain? Looking here, it goes out past Egan Avenue and up towards on the west side of Lottery Hall. How can we let these people consider building in a floodplain when FEMA won't let anybody else build in a floodplain?
Anybody can build in a floodplain if they elevate, in the 100-year floodplain. If it's in the floodway, they would also have to get a no-rise certificate to prove that it would not cause a rise in the 100-year floodplain elevation with any construction. So as I said, mentioned in our first meeting, they would have to comply with all floodplain regulations when they come forth with the details of a proposal. If they were going to put any fill or structure in the floodway, they'd have to hire an engineer and go through and certify that there'd be no rise. If they're in the 100-year floodplain, which I believe the entire structure is in the 100, they just have to elevate to meet the compliance standards, which is, I believe, 1 foot above the base flood elevation. And that would be a constraint that they would have, and I've talked about that quite extensively with Dustin, that they would have to monitor that.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Do you guys have anything else? I guess we can open it up.
We just did a development on Lake Ponset where it was all in the floodplain, and CDI, civil design, got it all certified out of the floodplain.
I have one last question is, why don't you take the structures down and build with our current zoning as it is now, R60 zone?
Well, anything with 3 or more tenants has to be zoned for multifamily, correct?
I defer to Chad on that.
What you also talk, you have an excerpt from the ordinance in your packets here, and that was also in the, but in this particular zone, in the R60 zone, excuse me, yeah, R60, you can have two family dwellings on a parcel. So then, if this is a single parcel, you could have two dwellings on it, you could have multiple, as a principal permitted use. So if you subdivided them, which I think you could have 4 dwellings, 2 on each parcel. With a conditional use, if you would apply for that, under the current zoning, you could go up to 4 dwellings on each parcel. You'd have to meet the space and parking requirements and so on in the other parts of the ordinance as well. So, and I think the mayor alluded to that, so maximum, if you subdivided this into 2 parcels, you could put 4 dwellings on there. And the dwellings are, you could have, as the mayor had mentioned, 3, 4 bedrooms if you want, or 1 for that matter.
We have a lot of those around town, you know, townhomes and garages, and they look pretty nice. I know they're popular. I mean, you know, that I guess is just kind of my question is, and being public safety commissioner, I'm well aware of the, you know, and we always struggle when you have rundown properties and different things throughout our community. There's not a lot that we can do about that. And so that's where, you know, as a developer, if I would completely support you in coming in, tearing down the old structures, and like I said, they're not historical anymore. They've been chopped up, remodeled, and cut up and everything. And to do that within our current zoning, keep all the aesthetics, work with the neighbors so that the aesthetics all work with them as well. And so that's kind of why I'm asking is why not with our current zoning? You're telling me that you can't get enough people to live there to build what you want. Is that what I'm hearing, or?
Well, that would just put us in, that pigeonhole us in only being able to do that one thing, which would be townhome style, bigger, more people in one unit, which is more a party house. We have those units that we're going away from. We're going to more smaller units. And I feel that the kids and the professional faculty that you get want the style of living that we want to try and provide. I'm not in the townhouse model. We have a lot of issues with noise complaints more when you get the more bedrooms you get in one spot, and then it just changes the whole style of everything. We won't be able to build a 2-story like that either because it won't be dense enough. So then we have to, I don't know how we make it fit the historical neighborhood if we were only building 1 story. And the least dense that you get it doesn't cash flow as good. So.
Commissioners, any other, or Mr. Mayor, any other questions that you have for these 2 gentlemen?
It isn't so much questions that it's I have concern in that, you know, that we're in the historic district, and if we change the zoning on that, we're creating some spot zoning that, you know, down the road, and that building could change into something different, and that's where my concern is. You know, I would like to hear from some of the neighbors, but the other thing that I had a concern with is when we met a month ago, and that I specifically mentioned that they would have extra time to visit with the neighbors. I don't take the phone call to Chad to see if the neighbors are interested in talking as valid, because I had talked with them to see if they had been approached, and they said no one had approached them. So I thought with an extra 2 weeks of time from what we normally do, they would have reached out to the neighbors and had some discussion.
Yep, okay, well, go ahead, Commissioner Johnson has a comment.
Well, a couple of terms you used. One was professionally managed. And somewhere I think you alluded to it with Cameron. Things like Cameron.
Yes.
Do you have live-in professional management in your facilities?
In Brookings, we have Brookings Property Management that manages the property, and then we have camera system that monitors 24 hours surveillance. But they're on call for any issues 24 hours a day.
But you don't have a live-in,
They,
it's one living in an apartment.
yeah, I mean, we haven't gone that far with the details, but if it makes sense. You know, Brookings Property Management doesn't feel like they can provide the service that we need, then we'd have somebody.
I'm just with some clarification
Yeah.
what that means.
Yeah, we're close enough to that building where we didn't need it, we don't need a live-in manager there. My office is actually underneath, so I'm at that building
Okay.
multiple
So that
times a
would
week.
suffice to say also that in the sense you have presence there.
Yeah. we don't-
And then also you mentioned the residents or renters, clients would be persons of high character. What's your gauge on that?
Just based on our property in Brookings. And the other thing is, there's a certain price point, you know, and we're building to a certain clientele, or our proposed project is to build to a certain clientele, and that's, again, to support these additional graduate students and faculty and students that are coming in, you know, with the vision that DSU has.
Yeah, sure. That's a concern. Supervision.
Absolutely.
Who's watching?
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think, you know, maybe it's just gonna amplify the problems that you already have, you know, with renters being there now, because we would like to bring in more renters, and so we're very aware of that. And so we think moving the price point further up, having a very nice building, we think that will have
I think
tenants that
that
will
was
look
sure, but
for.
it's probably true, you know, if you look at rental property,
Yeah.
and we'll take care of you, expect more, those type of things. But I understand what you're saying about that.
And, you know, the surveillance, you know, 24-hour surveillance, I mean, everybody sees that there's cameras around, there's not getting away with much, you know, and the camera's not blinking.
Go ahead.
No, I want to make sure you're done.
Just taking a breath. I want to compliment your building on Main Street in Brookings. There is some movement in communities this size and larger, where the main streets don't have the economics that they had in the past, moving people closer to the center of town that way, by moving people into buildings, taking what buildings that aren't used anymore, tearing them down or whatever the case would be. I mean, that's just not in your case, but that's been a national trend. And so I think that's, you're kind of on the avant-garde on that part of it there. And this will address what's going on at your across right now, but I want to compliment you on that. I think it's a really nice looking building and well cared for. The green aspect of it is very commendable. And I think you're on the edge of probably where a lot of things are going to go. Maybe it's just size larger with, which is not to say that economics aren't occurring in our community. They're just occurring in different places than the traditional Main Street.
Right.
But remember, you also have shops in the bottom. Are there shops in the bottom?
No, in
Yeah.
Brookings there is, yeah, offices and shops, barber.
Have you talked with the Chamber of Commerce or the LAIC about maybe doing that same model downtown on our Main Street?
No, I
Or
didn't see any- I
in
didn't
general,
see-
have you talked with our LAIC about development opportunities other than?
I guess we felt like there'd be too many challenges there. Build a new structure, you know, we're obviously looking to support just the vision of DSU, and we feel like that's a safer bet for us. So that's why we chose that location.
Business decision.
I appreciate you asking that, because it's
Yeah.
one of my considerations. Are there other opportunities other than this place?
And I think, you know, as the university grows, it's obviously, at some point, you know, decisions like this will have to be made. We understand that, you know, it's a tough decision, and that's why we want to, you know, listen to feedback and try and come up with that perfect building that will fill a need and also, you know, fit with what everybody wants and ultimately be, you know, put everybody in a better place than they were before, you know, from what we have now and where that's going to what we could possibly offer.
And have you talked with DSU about other locations?
A little bit, nothing official, I mean, but, you know, they mentioned, and I think there was another gentleman, maybe with the commission, that had mentioned north of town. But we kind of feel like some of these wins that we would get, you know, by putting a building across the street would kind of fall out if we put, you know, 2-3 blocks up the road, and, you know, we'd have people commuting to school, faculty commuting to school, which would add to the traffic again. And we feel like a big part of the value is just being across the street, you know, from the university, and which is why we also want to be there.
I do want to reiterate that the Historical Society, they still have to approve this, so their requirements are way more strict on what the building looks like than anything from the city as far as code goes. So they're very strict on that. They don't just let you put anything in there. So the height is very important and the width is very important.
Have you considered asking for a plan district?
Yeah. But it doesn't fit. Chad said it's got to be it's 5 acres or more.
Is that one of our requirements?
Correct, yes.
To just add to that, that is an ordinance and that we have, and I had questioned with David and that about, you know, the possibility that if we came back with something like that, if that's something we could amend, and we have not talked about that at length, but it is something that I still have a question on also. Our current ordinance says 5 acres.
Is that the only restriction?
My question is does it have to be that large? And I don't have that answer.
Yes, right now it says 5 acres, and then the planned development district has a series of submittals and that are required, and then actually the plan, the structure, the way it looks, the sizing, the location actually become part of the adopted district should that happen, and so there's much more control that the city in that case would have on that if a planned development district was proposed there. But with some initial review of that, I believe what would have to happen is there'd have to be an ordinance amendment for consideration of changing that 5 acre requirement. And then if that was approved, then at that time they could apply and essentially go through this whole process again, but actually then more of those details that I think everybody was looking for, would like to see, would need to be submitted and considered part of it. The other side of the coin, so to speak, on looking at that 5 acre thing is, you got to remember if you do that, you're changing that for any future plan development district and such. But that's probably another discussion for another day where you get into more detail. Initially, some discussions I've had with First District, that may not be that much of an issue.
Any reason why it was set up with 5 acres?
It was in the ordinance that we already had that was changed in 2009. The one before that was in place probably at least 20 years.
I think on a higher level, planned districts mean more than a couple of housing units.
Correct.
Planned districts were meant to encompass things like commercial residential combinations. So there's some belief behind the policy that you need room to accomplish that. That's why you see 5 acres as a rule of thumb. Certainly not always standard as a planned district, because planned districts weren't meant to look at an apartment building or a duplex or a triplex. It was a larger development. It was a large scale development in a city.
All right.
Currently, the only one we have is Bethel Community.
Chad, on Northwest 7th and Blanche, could they ever build something like this on that? They'd have their own parking lot?
Is that a vacant property?
Yeah, and it's up high and it's They wouldn't have to haul much in.
Northwest 7th and Blanche. If it's in the, they would have the same floodplain considerations. Is that north of 7th Street is what you're talking about? Or which direction?
It's west of Egan Avenue on 7th Street.
Yeah,
South of-
those are flood buyout lots, if
Yeah.
I recall. And there's restrictions on building on flood buyout lots because we used funds that had hooks in it, so to speak, and that limit what you can do in the future. So that would be one thing that you'd have to keep in mind. But then also the floodplain, same floodplain comments that I would apply that I shared with you a little bit ago as well. But,
West of Eden? Yep, I know what you're talking. All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. We're going to pay attention, listen to a few other people then as well, so
Okay.
appreciate your time
Yeah.
and your answers.
Thank you.
First off, is anybody from the Planning Commission here? I don't think so, so I just, in case they were here, I just thought we'd listen to them first. So with that, I'd open it up to, I know we got some of the citizens and neighbors in the area. If you'd like to speak on this, we'd love to hear from you. And I know we've heard, and we do have in our packet letters and comments from other people. So, but if you'd like to verbalize some things, you're certainly welcome to do that now during this hearing. And don't all speak at once. Sure, Lois, come on. No, oh, Gary? Come up.
I just got a couple.
Go ahead and
things
state your name, Gary, for the...
Gary, let's say, owned the Turk properties in 1993 when we had the flood. 705 had no water. It was Bill Hire come up, and in order to get it out of the floodplain, all I had to do was put that much dirt at the corner of the house and taper it off 3 foot, because the house was actually above the garage house that's behind was actually would have been out of the floodplain, and I wouldn't have had flood insurance. But I paid it off and I didn't have to have flood insurance.
Okay.
That one thing I wanted to say.
Right.
709 had about 2 foot of water in it. And John Draper's house, I don't know how much water it had in it. But that one showed the thing at the time, the floodplain. And the end of 6th Street, since that, it was out of the floodplain. That was basically, and then in 09, things got taken, it looks like. And that's what I don't quite understand.
Okay.
But we walked into the basement that afternoon and used the bathroom in the basement after everything else was flooded. We come close to getting water because that footbridge washed out and went in under the bridge at Hagen. As soon as they pulled that out, I went over there and the water was clear back down in the creek. It drops off twice. Drops off once behind the houses, and then it drops off again out at the trees at the property line, and it finally drops
Okay.
5 foot there. So that's one thing I wanted to mention.
All right, well, thank you. Anybody else? Lois, you wanted to speak, or ditto to the letter?
John?
Fine.
Okay.
From your letter? Anything from DSU at all?
Only if there's questions, if there's
Sure.
specific questions, I'd be happy to
Here we have a young gentleman. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Nick Offolina. I'm from, I go to Dakota State University. I'm a student there. This is my first year there. During my high school years, I worked for one of Dustin's companies called Brookings Built Green. And I would just like to say that this man would have an enormous, he could do a lot of really good things for this community, and that is why I support him coming in here. A couple weekends or a couple months ago, me and Dustin were at an event a while ago, and you mentioned something about investing in Madison, and I said absolutely, that would be awesome. There are lots of dilapidated buildings around the Madison area, and I just think that he can do a lot of really awesome things for this community. Him and his company have they're very trustworthy. I know a lot of you have stipulations about him changing the plans or something like that. That is not something he would do. I mean, he's had the Governor Dennis Dugard visit one of his projects before, and overall, we here at Dakota State University, there are 2 residence halls that are very dilapidated and will need to be condemned in the next 10 years or so or less, hopefully. And they are not very nice to live in, let's say. And the process of building a new residence hall, it's not cheap, and I'm not sure about the whole. I'm not sure about the whole building process, but it may need to go through the legislature, just like the Mad Labs did. And we need really good housing on campus, and I think bringing in developers like Dustin and other developers will have a really amazing benefit to the community as a whole. And I would really like to see you guys take progressive action towards building projects like this. And any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Wallner?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Is the plan still for 350 square feet per unit?
The efficiency units, yes, that's roughly, they range from 350 to 400.
For the, did you hear the answer?
350 to 400?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, it's a little larger than a dorm room.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Well, if nobody else wants to speak, I guess I'll call the hearing closed.
Can I just ask one thing?
Yep.
Is there anything in the letters that you reference that we could possibly talk through now? I'd like to, or if I could maybe get a copy, I'd like to, hear some concerns.
The packet and the information is on the website.
Okay.
Been there since Friday. The letters were also presented a month ago, and quite honestly, everything that's in those letters should have been addressed over, the commission, we gave 4 weeks.
Is there something that wasn't addressed?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not for me. I know most of my questions have been answered. And commissioners, anything else you can? So, yep.
Again, if I might speak in that, my concern isn't so much in that, what they have in mind now. My concern is that if we change the zoning, that zoning change will remain in the future, and should they decide not to be the purchasers of this property, and someone else decides to be the purchaser of this property, and that then even though what they have presented to us doesn't have to be what the next purchaser that, does with that property. We have then spot zoned it into something where 80% of it can be utilized, and, may not be in the best interest of the historic district and the city of Madison.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I will call this hearing closed and move on to old business number 2. Second reading, ordinance number 1601, amend Appendix B zoning, change zoning district from R60 to R20. And commissioners, any additional things you would like to discuss on this?
If not, I might mention in that, planning and zoning has spent time on this, and they did make a recommendation, and if I stand correct, that their recommendation was to deny the zoning change, and I know how much time they spend on planning and zoning questions and that, so I am very much in favor of following their lead in denying the ordinance change.
I'm going to make a motion that we deny ordinance number 1601 that would amend Appendix B zoning change district from R60 to R20. However, before I ask for a second, I want to make a couple of comments here. Is that I would like to see you guys do some with our current zoning, if at all possible, in that area. Speaking for myself, progressively in this community, we need housing, absolutely. And I would also suggest that you folks visit with Dakota State University to try to see if there's an additional place or some other area that we could do this in. And so with that, I will stand by my motion.
Second.
What were you saying? Go ahead. Where was somebody?
I was wondering about the, so are you going to support a planned district, or no? You just don't want to see anything done there unless it's...
Not anything that you could comment on right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you were saying supporting something else, so I just wondered if...
Nope.
It's definitely worth a conversation.
Yes, we're speaking about it.
You can certainly talk and visit with our city engineer about any other ideas. Certainly visit with DSU. This type of housing is needed. I know DSU has some other plans for some other housing. So with that, we have a motion and a second. This is an ordinance, so I'm going to do a roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Corbin?
Nay.
Commissioner Johnson?
Oh, you motioned to deny. You did it backwards on me. All right.
Well, I think we need to clarify your vote.
Yeah. Let's clarify.
I'll vote yay on denying.
If that's a, yay, yes. Undenied. To deny.
Commissioner Thel?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldner?
Aye.
And Mayor Lindsay?
I too would just reiterate in that I agree with Mike. We need housing and we need things done. I just don't feel that this was the right thing to do, so I vote to deny.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And with that, we will continue on with new business number 1. Authorize mayor to sign proposal Geotech Engineering and Testing Services Incorporated for asbestos building survey for renovation of City Hall. And Chad, do you have the information on that, or Jen?
I can speak to this.
Okay.
Yes. You will remember signing a services agreement back in July, I believe, of 2017 with RSA Architects for a Phase 1 City Hall study. It was just a simple study to study options for renovation, expansion, or replacement of our current City Hall. The last step, and this was as per the request of RSA Architects, was to perform an asbestos building survey for our building here. If you look at the proposal in front of you, the scope of work does talk about bringing an inspector to the site, identifying any suspected areas that contain asbestos, collecting samples, testing those samples, and then following up with a written report. As far as project cost, because they really don't know what they're getting into until they start looking here, where they have provided us what they estimate low and an estimate high. The low estimate for this study is about $4,500, and the estimate high is almost $6,000.
The estimate low,
Estimate low.
3,400?
Yep,
Okay.
3405 there, okay, bottom.
Yep.
Estimate high is $5,937.
That's it for it. Okay.
There are dollars budgeted for continuing studies here for City Hall, so this is well within the budget.
Okay.
So you want like up to $6,000 then?
That would be great, please.
I'll make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign proposal, geotech engineering and testing services for asbestos building survey for renovation, City Hall, up to $6,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries to authorize the mayor to sign proposal, Geotech Engineering and Testing Services Incorporated.
Thank you.
New business number 2. Authorize mayor to sign grant application, U.S. Department of Agriculture, update Madison Public Library youth spaces. And I think, Nancy, you want to speak to that, or?
If you have questions.
Sure, tell us
What is it?
quickly
Tell us
what it's about. We drug you out on a snowy Monday night, so
You've been very patient.
yes, and you've been patient with us, so thank you.
We, as you may remember, got a small grant about a year ago from 3 entities, Web Junction, OCLC, and the American Library Association, to update or create a STEM kind of environment in our children's department. We have chosen to kind of isolate a smaller area within the children's department for young adults, middle schoolers and older. And we're doing this by rearranging our bookshelves. I mean, there are no walls, so it'll just be separated by a variety of bookshelves. But we've started, there are bookshelves in different places. And we're ordering equipment. The kids have decided that they would like recording equipment. So we have different microphones, cameras, a green board, just things that will work well for their recording. They're very interested in music and theater. So the grant we have is not very large. It's about $5,000. And in the process of working with it, we discovered that USDA will allow us to use the money from that grant to match the grant from USDA. So we are using grant money to match for a grant from USDA. There are lots of places for the mayor to sign on this application. Mostly they're things like you have to say that you are a drug-free working environment, and that they can do a credit check, and that we're not in arrears on our federal tax or anything like that. So it's lots of signatures, but it's nothing, we're not signing our lives yet.
That's doesn't happen very often that you can use one grant
I know.
to match another grant. So
Never.
good thing you looked into it and figured that out. The other thing that I'll throw out is being on the community center board. We're always talking about trying to find things for that middle age group is very difficult to kind of capture their thoughts and their time and especially after school. So I will make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign grant application, U.S. Department of Agriculture, update Madison Public Library youth spaces.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. New business, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
New business number 3. Resolution number 2018-3, approve a plot, Lot 20, Block 3 of Williams Brothers Addition. And Chad, I'm assuming this is you.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. I can talk, if you will, I could talk about all three, because they're all related.
Yes.
These three items.
Please do.
They're all plats in the Williams Brothers Addition. It's related to an item that was before the commission a couple weeks ago with the agreement for the extension of the roadway. Typically, the roads are supposed to be done, at least per ordinance, all the way to the property line before plats of adjacent properties can be approved. But via that agreement that allowed us to proceed with the approval process for these plats. This was before all three of these were before the Planning Commission. They did recommend approval, and so do I.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-03.
Second. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business number 4, resolution number 2018-04, approve a plot, Lot 16, Block 1 of William Brothers Addition. And I think Chad addressed that as well.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries. Resolution or new business number 5. Resolution number 2018-05. Approve a plot track A of Williams Brother Addition.
Motion to approve.
Second again. We have.
Before we vote, is this the engineering firm? Is this being paid for by Williams Brothers or?
This is his engineer. He's hired him years ago to do this.
Okay.
Back in 2016.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business number 6, bid number 869, set bid date, WTP, WWTF coating. Is this you, Brad?
It sure is.
You
Mr.
can
Chairman.
say the acronyms if you want.
Water treatment plant and then the wastewater treatment facility.
There you are.
They have basins that need to be coated, and this is a advertisement for bids. Time and place would be 10 o'clock a.m. Tuesday, March 13th for this one.
I'll make a motion to approve bid number 869, set a bid date for 10 a.m. on Tuesday, March 13th, for the water treatment plant, wastewater treatment facility coatings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business number 7, bid number 870. Set a bid date for pad mount switches, transformers, and cable. Mr. Lawrence?
Yeah, this would be the same thing. This is for our annual upgrade project, and so this we go out, get the material separate from the labor to do the install. And so this would be to go out and get the materials bid. It's for 2 o'clock on the same day, March 13th.
Did we get bids right at one time?
I have at different places. I've
I
had.
just hope people don't get confused with the 10 and the 2 here.
Well, it's like driving.
10-2.
I guess.
But just gotta know which hand you're with on that one. But I have in the past at another jurisdiction where the bid came in 2 minutes after, and we had to leave that one sealed and did not open it. So I have been there.
We'll make sure people don't get confused.
I'll do my best.
I'll make a motion to approve bid number 870, set bid date Tuesday, March 13th at 2 o'clock p.m. for pad mount switches, transformers, and cable.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. New business number 8, declare as surplus property and appoint appraisers, scrap wire, and scrap miscellaneous.
This is our annual, not annual, it's multi-annual. We do it from time to time when we get enough material that we can put it out for, if you will, for disposal. And this is it's a medium-sized roll-off container that's got some miscellaneous wire and stuff left, that we take from the upgrade projects that's not in a big spool of wire that isn't worth going out for bids. It's just scrap, if you will, just miscellaneous items, so.
With that, I'll make a motion that we declare a surplus property and appoint the appraisers of Commissioner Corbin, Brad Lawrence, and Chad Combs for scrap wire and scrap miscellaneous.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. See no announcements, no executive session. Mayor, would you like to call for adjournment?
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Mike, and thank you, everyone, for being in attendance.
Thank you, Chairman.
You're welcome. Drive safe, Mayor.
Thank you.
So you guys don't have any objection with anything at all, right? Because we can put in.
Well, here, you want my packet that has the letters?
Right, but if we go by the zoning and we put in 6-bedroom or 5-bedroom units and do 4 of them when we have 50 people, what's the difference? If they're 2-story and all the parking's in the back still.
If you're within the zoning and it's all with the building permit, then
Set 2 fourplexes and say each of the,
I couldn't tell you. You'd have to ask.
But the density is the same and the parking actually would be less, the requirements would be less back. Correct. If that was the case.
because you just need 8 total, or 16 total.
Correct.
16 total parking spots, and you could have, each of these units could be 5 bedroom.
Maybe the same size building is what we,
And it'd be, yeah, same big building.
just less,
Fit it within
just
that.
all the units together.
I'd love to see something we did on Main Street, Brookings, and on our Main Street.
There's nothing really available,
What are you talking?
there ain't anything available.
Have you talked to the LAIC? The key word is listen.
Yeah, I talked to, she doesn't work there.